Hey Richmond, Virginia, 67% of Americans think that a housing crash is imminent in the next 3 years. Will it happen in 2023 though? We'll cover that today on your February 2023 Housing Market Update. What is going on, party people? Thank you for tuning in. In this video, we're going to give you an update of not only the national housing news, but also the local housing news here in Metro Richmond, Virginia. Before we get into it though, if you would, like, subscribe, smash that bell, smash that like button, give me a heart, give me a TikTok, whatever's on TikTok, whatever the kids are doing. Let's get right into it. All right, so as we opened this video, 67% of Americans that have been recently polled say that they think a housing crash is imminent in the next 3 years. I certainly am not able to answer that question. I don't have a crystal ball. I think the question on everybody's mind though is, are we gonna see that crash in 2023? So before we get into that, let's give a couple facts. Let's kind of diagnose where we currently are in the market before we jump into what we think is gonna happen in the future. So the narrative last year, this narrative really started in June of last year when inventory was continuing to rise in a historic time where inventory tends to drop throughout the remainder of the year. And experts who were saying that, hey, if inventory continues to rise, continues on the trajectory that it was on, that we were certainly going to see those supply and demand dynamics shift, where we're going to see supply increase over and above where demand was, and therefore finally put us into more of a buyer's market versus the seller's market that we were in really heavy since 2020. But honestly, in Metro Richmond, we've been in a seller's market since 2011. But that did not happen. And on a national scale, inventory started to drop again. And therefore, we kind of stayed in the same dynamic that we were very much in a seller's market because that inventory just dropped, along with a dropped buyer interest or buyer demand, given the hike in the interest rates. And that same dynamic occurred in Metro Richmond. If we look at the graphic over my shoulder, you will see that December 2022 was the lowest amount of inventory that we had seen in the month of December over the last 3 years. And that begs the question, why is that? Well, if we really think about it, sellers are now reluctant to sell because a lot of homeowners either bought with 3 or sub 3% interest rates, or they refinanced and locked in this extremely cheap long-term interest rate of around 3%. And it's been very hard to get people off of that financing. You've really got to want to move to give up a 3% interest rate, especially given that par interest rates right now are about 6 and a quarter, at least at the time of this recording on Valentine's Day. The other thing to consider too is that a lot of sellers are reluctant to sell because inventory is still so tight. So it's kind of a self-perpetuating problem. You've got low inventory, and then you've got even lower inventory because folks that own homes that sell them that need to move into another home are reluctant to sell because they're not quite sure where they're going to move to next. And therefore, they don't want to sell what they currently have and move into an unknown future of what am I going to buy and what is that going to cost me. The other factor here is that buyer demand is still very strong. If we look at the showing time report, and showing time is a system that a lot of agents throughout the country use to book and kind of facilitate their showings, so they have really good data on folks that are going to view properties. You will see that we were the amount of showings that we experienced in 2022, while it was lower than what we saw in December 21 and December of 2020, which were somewhat anomaly years, December 22 was still above the 10-year average of the number of showings that we historically seen in the month of December. So we still have, in a historical context, we still have very strong buyer demand. And with that being said, oh, would you look at that? The month supply of inventory metric in Metro Richmond is now on the decline again. We're currently sitting for the month of January, we had about 0.8 month supply of inventory. Once again, anything under 6 months supply of inventory is considered a seller's market. We are now sub 1 month supply of inventory and trending downward, which I think is a trend that we're going to continue to see in March when the numbers come out for February. So will the market crash this year? Will it crash ever? I can't answer the question, will it crash ever? Is it going to crash this year? Are we going to see home prices depreciate this year? Are we going to head into a buyer's market in 2023? My guess, if I had to make a bet, was that we are not going to, given the fact that we still have historically low inventory, we've still got very strong buyer demand, and it seems as if buyers have become comfortable with 6 and 6.25% interest rates. So what does this all mean to you? So for my seller clients, as always, I've got 3 tips for you. Number 1, start before you think you need to. We talk to so many seller clients, potentially seller clients this time of year in January and February, even in December, that they say, hey, I'm gonna sell in the spring, I'm gonna sell when the kids get out of school, we're gonna make a move later this year, and they sit on their hands and they procrastinate, and then they are entirely way super stressed when it actually comes time to do something, because they haven't taken the 2-3 months in advance to be able to do the staging, do the decluttering, do kind of the prep work, do the upgrades that they could do to get more money out of their house, and they leave themselves 2 to 3 weeks to get their home ready. And while you may think you don't have a lot of stuff in the attic, while you may think you don't have a lot to do, it tends to be more than most people anticipate to get top dollar. Secondly, I'll give you a quote that I got from my high school baseball coach: prior proper preparation prevents poor performance. So this kind of goes along with point number 1. But if you are looking for a maximum result, if you're looking to be able to sell for maximum price, to be able to set a new record for your neighborhood, you're going to have to put in some legwork or invest some time, money, and energy into getting your property ready. That could mean painting, that could mean, replacing flooring, that could mean doing some upgrades, making some repairs to your property. But I talk to way too many people that want to be able to get that primo result, but they're not willing to invest or not willing to do the work that is necessary to get there. And you simply don't get the primo result without the primo effort. It's kind of like wanting, 6-pack abs, but you don't want to go to the gym or change your diet, right? We got to put in the work if we want the result. And then last but not least, no thanks to first come, first serve. What do we mean by this? We are encouraging all of our clients to do a delayed reviewing of offers when they are selling their homes. That means that we are going to typically start showing the property on Friday. We're going to show it Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. And then we're going to tell any prospective buyers and or buyers agents that we are not going to review any offers until Monday. Why would you want to do that? Well, the alternative is that we look at offers on a first come, first served basis. And the reality is, as cool as it is to say that I sold my property the first day it hit the market, the reality is you're not allowing enough time for enough buyers to come through the property. If you only open up showings to one day, then the offer that you receive on Friday may not be higher than the offer that you could potentially get from the Saturday or the Sunday showings. The other dynamic at play is if buyers know and buyers agents know that you're going to be looking at all offers at one time, it forces them to send their best offer first, because they know they're not going to have the opportunity to do the back and forth negotiation, versus if you're reviewing offers as they come, a buyer may think, hey, I can jump in front of it, or hey, maybe I can negotiate a good deal before everybody and their mother makes an offer over the weekend. We recently did this with a client. They received 7 offers. We actually had an agent that tried to force our hand and make us accept their offer on Saturday. We told our clients, no, let's wait till Monday as planned. We ended up getting 7 offers. We ended up selling for $25,000 over asking price, not because I did anything necessarily special, but that we just forced folks to send us their best offers on Monday, and lo and behold, the price got escalated. All right, so for my buyer clients, we got 3 tips for you guys as well. Sorry, not sorry, it's still a seller's market. So despite what you might be hearing on the news, despite what your Uncle Larry might have told you, despite what you might be optimistically hoping for that the tides have turned, we are still very much in a seller's market. We're more so in a seller's market today than we were even 2 months ago. So if you're somebody that's going out there thinking that you're just going to get a steal of a deal, that you're going to be able to lowball sellers or kind of have it your way, I apologize in advance, but it's not the case. We're still very much in a seller's market. Secondly, pre-inspections for the win. So given that we're still very much in a seller's market, something that we started doing during kind of the COVID times that is still a good tactic if you want to be competitive in your bid. We are now seeing where buyers are having to waive home inspections again to get properties under contract. I'm not saying that's right, wrong. I'm just saying it is what it is. So one thing that you could do as a buyer is you can actually pay your home inspector to come along with you at the showing, do a quick little rough and dirty inspection of the property, just make sure there's nothing crazy that you need to look out for. And I'm not necessarily recommending that you waive inspections, but if you have to be competitive, that's one alternative where you can at least get some professional eyes on the property and know that you're not buying a lemon. And then last but not least, avoid the crowds, go off market. So one of the things that we do with all of our buyer clients is when we first sit down with them and kind of onboard them as a client, we find out what they're looking for. And not only are we going to help them search for what's currently being listed for sale, but we're also going to go through tax records and search anything and everything that exists that matches their criteria. And then we're going to do some marketing to those homeowners to find out if they'd be willing to sell, if they got the right offer. We've had a number of clients that have been able to find properties, buy properties that were not actively being listed for sale. And here's the cool thing, they weren't competing with everybody and their mother for these properties because the sellers weren't listed for sale. So I hope that's helpful. I hope you got some value out of that. If you have any questions or concerns, throw it in the comments, shoot me a DM. Thanks for tuning in. Look forward to seeing you next month.